Open the training recipe for basically any large model, the original transformer, BERT, GPT, and you'll find the same odd instruction near the top. Don't start at your target step size. Start almost at 0, then ramp up over the first stretch. That's warm-up, and it looks completely backwards. Why deliberately crawl when you could sprint? It only makes sense once you understand what those first few hundred steps are actually like inside a fresh network. So here's why the biggest models on Earth all tiptoe into training before they ever open up. Picture the choice you face at the very first step. It comes down entirely to how aggressive that opening update is allowed to be, and the gap between the two options is dramatic. Jump straight to the target step size from step 0 and you're taking a huge stride while the weights are still completely random. The gradients are noisy garbage at that point, pointing in barely meaningful directions, so those early updates can blow up, spike the loss into the sky, or send the whole run into divergence you never recover from. Warm-up does the opposite. It starts the step size near 0 and ramps it up slowly to the target over the first stretch, then hands off to the normal decay schedule. Gentle early, confident later once the model has found stable ground. So what does the schedule actually look like over those opening steps? Walk it forward in 4 beats. At the very beginning, the step size sits near 0. Every update is deliberately tiny, so even though the weights are random and the gradients are unreliable, nothing catastrophic can happen this early. From there, the schedule increases the step size, usually in a straight line, over the first few hundred or few thousand steps. Each step gets a little bolder as the training signal becomes more trustworthy. Eventually, the step size reaches its peak, the target value you actually wanted all along. By now, the optimizer's internal statistics have settled, the gradients are far more trustworthy, and the weights have moved out of that fragile random start into a stable region where big steps are finally safe. After the peak, warm-up hands the baton to the decay phase. From here, the step size gradually comes back down, often on a cosine or an inverse square root curve, for the rest of training. Now, why does something this simple show up in every serious recipe? 3 reasons carry it. Those tiny early steps are the whole point. When the weights are random and the gradients are noisy, small updates avoid the huge destabilizing jumps that cause loss spikes and outright divergence in deep networks. You're essentially letting the model feel out the landscape before committing to any real distance. It also gives adaptive optimizers time to settle. Methods like Atom estimate a running average of squared gradients that's wildly unreliable in the first handful of steps, since it's built from almost no data yet. Ramping up slowly lets those internal statistics stabilize before you start trusting them to scale your updates. That's exactly why it's standard for large transformers with layer norm and residuals. Every big recipe warms up first, then decays, which is the other half of the schedule that follows the ramp. Let's tie it off with 4 takeaways to keep. Warm-up starts training with a very small step size and ramps it up, usually linearly, to the target over the first steps. Early on, the weights are random and gradients noisy, so a tiny step size prevents the huge updates that spike loss or diverge. It also lets an adaptive optimizer's unreliable early statistics settle before the model takes big, confident steps. Essentially, every large model uses it, then decays with a cosine or inverse square root schedule afterward. If you like these bite-sized training explainers, we've got a whole stack of them waiting at standarity.com.